Hello, everyone. This fishing report took place on 1 October 2025. That's a Wednesday. And where I decided to go fishing was the Surfside Beach area. And it's a little marsh system. Actually, it's nothing little about it. It's the marsh system called Essex Bayou. So let's get you an address to plug into your GPS navigation. That's going to be the Swan Lake Boat Landing in Freeport. And it's 809 Bay Avenue, Freeport, Texas, 77541. That's a shot of the intercoastal. But let's go ahead and zoom in. And this is the boat ramp itself. It's not paved. It's a mixture of like crushed shell, mud, and sand. And it's a very shallow launch. At best, you're probably going to have, during high tide, maybe a good 2 feet of water to get through this area. So for those of y'all that have power boats, be mindful of that. I'm not even sure why I'm saying power boats right now, because more often than not, you're not going to be able to get a power boat into Essex Bayou. But anyhow, as you can see, limited parking, so early bird will get the worm, especially this time of year, being that fall time fishing is at its best on the Texas coast, and everybody is out here trying to go after the same thing, which is the redfish. They are here in big numbers. The flounder migration will start to happen very soon. So yeah, you want to make sure that you get here early so that you can have a parking space. As you can see right here, you have those 3 ramps. This is the one that I always have a tendency to use. So whenever I get there, make sure that you're being considerate of everybody else that's out there. Park where 2 or possibly 3 vehicles can utilize one ramp for like all the kayak fishermen. Because what I would hate to happen is for all 3 of the ramps be taken up by kayakers, and then the powerboat people, whenever they come through, they're not able to launch. It doesn't take them long at all. Their boat's already ready. All they got to do is untether it from the trailer, and then off they go. For us, it takes a significant amount of time to actually put the kayak together, and then we can launch. So we took all 3 of them. That's just being very inconsiderate, but hey, I get it. You got there first, they didn't. I'm just saying, let's give us kayakers a good name. So let's knock out the weather conditions that I experienced on this particular day. The temperature was 82.9 degrees. The water temp was 84.6. Water level was 1.71 feet. The winds were 8.16 knots from the north-northeast. The tide was mid, and despite what the tide chart shows, it was actually incoming the entire time that I was out there in the marsh, and we had some good movement. So from the ramp, all you're going to do to access Essex Bayou is just cross the intercoastal really quick, and then there you are. There's the mouth to Essex Bayou, and you're going to travel or trek through the main bayou for approximately 2 miles. I've measured this right here, and I did not waste any time inside the main bayou itself. I went through all the twists and turns until I got to the intersection, and that's going to be all the way back over here. It's quite a distance. Okay, so I call this the intersection because as you see it right here, it's just an intersection, and it's pretty shallow right through this area. As soon as I got back into the area, I had already noticed a blow up inside this shallow flat area right over here, and then I made a cast, and then no sooner than I made that cast, I heard a blow up in the grass line. I pointed it out in the video, and at that point in time, I knew it was going to be on. I knew the fish were going to be back here. It was a cold front that we were experiencing, being that we had like the north winds. It was just a gorgeous day overall. Very low winds. They also died down the further we progressed through the day. And so, yeah, my hunch was right, and coming to Essex, it provides plenty of shallow flats or shallow water to be able to chase these fellas down. And as of recent, this flat right over here has always been on fire for me. So that's the one that I decided to hit first. All right, so now whenever the video picks up, you see me using a top water. It was the new one that I had just purchased from the sporting goods store, and it's significantly bigger than the original one that I always use, which is the Spook Junior. This one's just the regular Super Spook. And boy, oh boy, it's got 3 sets of trebles. They're saltwater ones, and it makes a lot of noise. So I was worried that it was going to make too much noise, but it put all those worries to rest once we did get the first blow up. After making a cast, I did see a wake come over and nose it, and at that point in time, the fish didn't want it. So it just kept on. I didn't want to waste any more time. I wanted to get the first fish in the boat, and I decided to switch lures. I went over to one of my bugs fishing jigs that imitates a minnow, and it's probably close to 4 inches in length. So made the cast, and nope, didn't get anything as well. So I just pushed on. So from there, I had noticed that there was a significant amount of mullet back there, or bait style fish, and it was a combination of like mullet, and then I also saw what appeared to be shad taking to the surface whenever the blowups took place or they got spooked. So we had 2 styles of bait inside the water, and that's why I stuck with like minnow imitations or bait fish imitations. And as soon as I get onto this flat, immediately, y'all, I'm pushing over here as close as I possibly can until the kayak starts to bottom out along this area. And that's whenever I started seeing redfish after redfish. Some of them were grouped together, and then others were just all on their lonesome. But along this grass line, one was swimming, and I tried to cast my bugs jig, and I made really great casts. However, there was some like lone strands of grass that were overhanging on the water, and every time I twitched, you kept seeing the grass bend repeatedly, and then I just had to unsnag it. But anyhow, long story short, I didn't catch this fella. Did get a really good look at him, and the one time that I did manage to make a really good cast, it still didn't want my lure. So I ended up spooking a lot of fish, y'all. And I mean, it was, as I said in the video, it was beyond comprehension how many reds were truly back here. So I just kept at it. No sooner than I spooked that fella with the bigger 4-inch, like kind of 4-inch variety bugs, I went over to my trusty confidence bait, which is the flats bug, in a 3/16 ounce. I wanted the distance, so I was able to cast that significantly better with more accuracy than my traditional 1/8 ounce, and it seemed to have worked at least once during this trip. So I left there, started push-pulling over towards this direction, saw a couple more. I was having issues with my remote connecting to the rear-facing camera, or the rear camera, and I lost an opportunity at 2 or 3 more reds over in this direction, and then they pushed off, and so I turned the kayak around, started coming this way. There was a patch of grass that I had seen another redfish at, so made the cast over and then started retrieving back, and was hoping to meet the redfish as it's swimming this way, making my lure go ahead and try to meet him where they cross paths. And my bugs, the flats bug, the weed guard isn't very substantial, and so I hit a small little blade of, not even a blade, it was like the stalk of one of the cord grass pieces. And so the hook got embedded in that, and I ended up spooking this fella because it just doesn't look natural whenever you're dragging something across, and it, like, what's a piece of bait going to be doing with a big chunk of grass? So that fella spooked off, and then immediately I knew, I'm like, yeah, I already know through experience that I can't, whenever there's submerged grass in the water, I cannot use the majority of my bugs lures because you get gummed up with grass. And so I put that away immediately, and I showed that in the video that I went to a weedless paddle tail. So at this point in time now, I have switched over to the Hoagie's Swimming Jack in the black color with some red flake and a chartreuse tail. And I was using a swim hook, a weighted swim hook. I was using the 3/16 ounce, and it's a 4/0 size hook. So that's what I had went to, and I used that until I caught like the first 2 fish. So from here, I started poling across the entire flat going in this direction. I spooked I don't know how many fish. It would have been so boring of a video had I put every fish in here that I spooked, but I tried to convey that it took quite a bit of time trying to land my very first fish. And yeah, y'all, it was just absolutely crazy. So come across this flat and then continue going down. I know I caught a fish somewhere over here. I didn't drop pins for everything that I caught. In the video, I decided to use 6 of the catches. Otherwise, the video would have been long and drawn out. But yeah, the 6 catches that I did show were just absolutely amazing. And what y'all need to know as far as the takeaway from this trip was that this entire flat had about 8 inches of water. The closer you get to the grass, the shallower it got. And the backs of these redfish were pretty much out of the water, right along the grass line. And then they were feeding aggressively whenever I had caught one of them over in this area. I clearly saw that they were feeding on shrimp. That's whenever I just decided to stop fishing and film what it was that I was seeing, because I was just taking in the beauty, admiring the school. It's been forever since I've seen this many schools of redfish feeding aggressively. And being that I did that, I could clearly see that they were chasing shrimp. And they were about 3/4 of an inch in size, so probably newly hatched. And that just told me to go back to the actual flats bug because it matches that size. I didn't have any Savage Gear shrimp, which I would imagine would have just worked wonders. We probably would have hooked up left and right because you're matching the hatch. In the video, y'all see that I kept throwing that paddle tail repeatedly. Like I would cast it right into the school and swim it by. I imagine the reason why they bit the paddle tail was probably just a reaction strike. And so, I mean, yeah, I count my blessings for being able to catch I think it was like, 2 catches in the video that I showed. But it just goes to show that as long as there's something moving in the water and the fish sees it and it's right in front of their face, all they're going to do is open their mouth. And that's basically what today panned out to be. So I was able to take advantage of a couple catches with the paddle tail. And then once I saw that they were shrimp that they were going after, I downsized really quick and was able to make it happen only once with the flats bug. Now, I did get quite a few fish to bite my flats bug, but setting that hook, it's such a small hook. I ended up taking pliers to bend the hook upwards, the hook point upwards, so that whenever you twitch, it was going to stick the top of their mouth. And whenever I did that, I was able to get the red. But it was only one fish that I was able to catch with the flats bug. So it did work. It was the perfect size to try and match the size of the bait that they were seeking out. And so that was that. Now, after using the flats bug, catching a fish over here in this direction, I started push poling back out towards the middle of the flat, and I saw a lone redfish way off in the distance to my left-hand side, and I was like, yeah, I'm done with this. I'm going to start having some fun. I wanted to go back to the top water, being that I did see the shad, and I knew that they were busting up on mullet still. So made the cast and gave several twitches. Oh, by the way, so a lot of the questions that I get is how can you cast really heavy lures, because the rods that I use, they have suggested weight ratings for your lures. I think that's just a guide to go by. It's simple physics. Whenever you're casting a really heavy lure with a light powered rod or even an ultralight, it's more of a lob. It's not a very deliberate like whip of the rod. So the heavier the lures, you're just going to want to lob it. And being that I'm using very light braid with a small diameter and shallow spools that are completely full, the lure is able to carry the line off of my rod and the spool for a pretty good distance. So, I mean, I don't know how else to explain it aside of the fact that just watch your cast. The smaller the lure, then you can whip it. You can put some oomph behind it and zing it out there a good distance. And then with the heavier lures, it's going to be more of a lob, a very careful lob, so that you don't break, like snap the rod during the cast. So, I mean, that's the best way to describe that. And again, the weight ratings and stuff like that, I just use that as a guide. You can feel whenever your rod is bending too much and when you're loading it up too much, and that there's a good possibility that you might break it. So just let that sink in. Just because it says it's for this weight doesn't mean that you have to stick with those weights. You'll get a feel for it the more you cast. I mean, I would even recommend casting at home, go to a field, something like that. That's what I used to do years ago. I would set up some coffee cans or 5-gallon buckets and try to cast towards them. And then just the muscle memory starts to set in, and you just get better at it. But anyhow, cast that top water lure, twitched it, and then the red just tracked it down. The rattles in it is amazing again, and he just blew up on it. And oh my gosh, my heart was pounding whenever I caught the first top water red, because that's what I set out to do in the first place, which is the top water. And yeah, it that right there was just pure gold for me. Reeled that fella in and released him to fight another day. After that, it was top water all the way. I seen from here to this point over here, which is where I entered into the shallow flat from the intersection. I had seen so many schools, it's ridiculous. We are also approaching midday, so I didn't know if the top water was going to continue to work. But luckily for us, it did. And once I got over in this area, I did see a redfish blow up along the grass line. I staked myself out over in this direction, and then I made a cast eventually into the main bayou and started twitching back towards this grass point. And then sure enough, one of the reds that was over here was making his way out, and then just completely crushed the topwater lure again. And so one of the things, whenever you're using the topwater, whenever they blow up on it, I kind of like pause really quick, like just a split second pause to see if the topwater is going to go down, or if I feel instant tension on the line. And once I noticed that split second that I didn't have him, I started speeding up the twitch just to give, like, hey, it's an injured mullet or bait fish, and it's trying to flee from that redfish. And then I'll, pull it away a little bit. Then I stop and like, okay, it's trying to catch its breath, so to say. And then, and then the fish, tries to bite again. And then I start speeding it up. And that fella just crushed it using that style of a retrieve. I'm walking the dog as well, so twitch, 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 and then you let it pause, and then twitch, 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 and then, so on and so forth. And that's what did the trick on this particular day for that. And that's what I usually do with my top waters as well. And so caught this guy, released him, continued fishing the top water all along over here, got several more bites, blow-ups. and didn't get any positive hookups. I turned behind me because blowups were happening back here as well. Wasn't lucky to get anything, so I started push poling into the actual intersection, and eventually made my way over here, cast towards this grass line, and twitch. I showed in the video that you could see a wake coming in this direction, so it was almost splitting image of what happened over here, but it was at this grass point now. And then whammo, we whacked this fish with the top water as well. Just overall, y'all, a spectacular day of fishing. Some of the takeaways is you have to be very quiet back here. There was another kayaker that I met okay, so where was he at? I met him right over here in this area. As I'm making my way, he was right at the horseshoe, and we both crossed over this section of the horseshoe together. And he was saying, how he had did exceptionally well, and he was able to bring in one fish, but he was seeing everything basically that I was seeing. So he described before I even got back to the shallow flats exactly what I had saw, and he did not have as successful as a day that I did, because whenever it was time to leave, we both met up right over here at the shallow, like all the oyster bars, and we were talking about each other's day, and he was saying, he just couldn't get them to bite. And I asked him, did he use a push pole? He said no, he used a paddle. And that's the confirmation on like why I always say, try to use a push pole. It's more stealthy. It's very quiet. It enters into the water without making a splash the way the blade of a paddle does. And you just want to be very quiet. You want to move your kayak through the water in a slow manner, because whenever the wind blows, all the ripple on the water will hit your kayak. It bounces right back off. The faster you're going, the bigger that bounce off is going to be, and it's not natural to the reds. You might think you're just being overcautious or what have you, and that couldn't be further from the truth. These fish know whenever something is not right. So if you leave their environment undisturbed and you travel through, as sneaky as possible, then you're just going to have better results. You're going to have a better opportunity at catching these fish. And that's why in like a lot of the videos, whenever I'm in the shallow waters, I'm able to get really close, because it's not that I see every redfish whenever I'm out here. It's the fact that I'm going very slow, and sometimes they just pop up right next to me. And that just lets you know that you're doing a good job. Whenever you can get that close to them without them feeling your presence, you're going to start having better days. So I would recommend, if you don't have a push pole, they're fairly inexpensive. And as long as you get creative, then you can do what it is that I do. I have a 6-footer so that whenever I'm standing up, I can reach the bottom to push pole myself while standing, and then I have the 4-footer for sitting down, and then also trying to get through tough spots. My 4-foot push pole is a solid 3/4 inch rod of fiberglass, and it's a 4-foot length, obviously. But it being solid means that I can really put some torque behind it. You don't want to put a lot of torque behind a push pole whenever it's like a hollow one, and while you're standing, because you're going to break it. It will snap. So that's the best advice that I could give you. Just be very patient. Move as slowly as possible. When I first started red fishing about 8 years ago, I didn't have the patience. I was using a Hobie back then. I used my Mirage drive to go everywhere. I'm like, nope, I spent all that money on this thing. I'm going to use it because I paid for it. I shifted away from that mentality through the years, and I started catching more fish. I started seeing a lot more, and I was able to identify exactly where blowups come, because I wasn't making noise with a pedal drive. yeah, if you can forego it, then I would definitely recommend to do so. Just be patient, and the fish, you will start seeing a lot more. There is a lot of fish in the water, and just because you can't see them doesn't mean that they're not there. You will end up spooking quite a few of them because the water being murky, they can get right on top of you and then let you know at the last second that they were right there. You just really couldn't see them because it's very murky. But yeah, what an amazing day out here. I hope y'all are going to be able to use all this information to the best of your benefit on an upcoming trip. And before I sign off, one of the things that I need to let y'all know is that it's kind of hard to get through here, which is why I said boats are rarely ever back here. On a super high tide, I've only seen one boat in my entire time of fishing this in 8 years try to get through this, and that fella had to hurry up and turn around. I was like, what is a boat doing back here? It was an aluminum John boat. And yeah, that guy, I don't know how he got through all this oyster, but the route that I take, I'm just going to go through it really fast. I do recommend dropping waypoints if you have a fish finder, and I just play connect the dots, especially through this. So I have a whole trail going through all of this, the deep area, and then you can't see this island anymore. So, but because I dropped those waypoints, I know which direction to go without messing up my trolling motor prop. I come over here. Once I get to this little somewhat pocket at this point of grass, I go over to this section. It's the deepest one that's out there to get through all these oyster bars and cross the side. So go around this way, come through here, and just basically pull out Google Maps if you don't have a fish finder, and you can see all of this right through here as well. And then once I get right here, I cross over to this side of the bayou because again, it's the deepest portion versus this side over here. So once you get through this right here, that's it. That's the end of all the oyster. You ain't got to worry about it. It's soft mud throughout, and then just try your best to stay in the middle. And yeah, I wasted no time whatsoever fishing the main bayou. I knew at this time of year, if you see a blow up, well, then cast on it. And you're in the main bayou. If you see a blow up, you're right by it, then just make the cast. Have a fishing rod and a lure at the ready so that you can cast immediately on it, and chances are you will get hooked up. But more often than not, you want to hurry up and trek through the 2 miles to get back here at the intersection. And then once you come back here, yeah, just keep your eyes peeled. And lately, again, it's been this area. The other area that you can do, if you see kayaks over here, then go all the way through this way of Essex Bayou. And once you get over here, there's a main little ditch that feeds the massive back lake over here. Now, this is very hard to get through. And one thing I want to leave y'all with is this is considered the wildlife refuge. So a game warden contacted me and said, hey, you cannot step out of your kayak. Otherwise, you're going to be considered trespassing. So as long as you stay in the water and in your kayak, you're going to be good. I'd hate for you and your followers to be cited with any type of tickets because you're considered trespassing. So I will leave y'all with that. Do not get out of your kayak. I know y'all have seen me in some videos where I will step out just to pull my kayak over a patch of grass. Even though these are public waters right here, if I were to step out and drag my kayak over this small patch of grass to access more public waters, they don't care. The minute you step on grass, that's it. You're trespassing. So I would not recommend trying to get back here, like walk from the road, because again, now you're in the wildlife refuge. See, Brazoria now National Wildlife Refuge. That's this whole area over here, and it includes a lot of the slot bowl. So now I'm going off on a tangent, but I think it's just fair to mention that. So yeah, what a spectacular day it was. Hopefully y'all will get to use this to your benefit throughout the month of October. And until next time, tight lines, everyone.